to be able to introduce one of our own, and especially one who has meant so much to me. And I'm sure many of you share a lot of happy memories concerning this fella, and we're just looking forward to what he has to offer this morning. Jimmy, would you come?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here today, especially to have so many friends there with us, so many friends with me, and see so many of you out today. So we hope you enjoy. All right. Ladies, if you're ready now, are you ready now? 1, 2, 3, 4. And I say that because we have worked with these folks so long. And to start out our little get-together today, when I was talking to the church here about it, it was just almost impossible for me to do this show without Rod Reed. And I thought that he was going to be gone for the day. I sweated that out, and then last week, after a very trivial and a very hard week on him this past week, he's still here, and I appreciate it very, very much. Mr. Rod Reed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Rod. I've asked to be with me today. It dates back many, many years. I've known him since he was more or less of a child guitar player, and I watched him progress in the business. I'm getting up now, I'm not trying to tell my age. But I watched him with various groups turn out to be one of the finest guitar players in the business. He went into gospel work around 20 years ago, and not only is he a wonderful musician, he's one of the finest guitar men in the United States. We're very fortunate that he makes his home here in Bakersfield now, and he teaches here in Bakersfield. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mr. Alvis Barnett. Alvis? In fact, I think when Alvis first came to Bakersfield, and I think Reverend Wolf was voting here at the church when he first came back to the church, I think he had Alvis and his family here at this church at that time. And we're certainly glad to have him. And the fellow over here on the fiddle now needs no introduction to you people here, because you all know and love him. He and his family are members of this church. And this is Mr. Harvey Veneer. Harvey? Other two people here with me, we have worked many, many jobs together. We've traveled many, many miles together. We've made a lot of meals together, and we've missed a lot of meals. Please believe me. And the fellow that I'm introducing to you now, Dad worked with me. This is the second generation that worked with the Thomason troupe. His dad did the first TV show that was ever put on in Bakersfield with us, out in Alldale years and years ago, the old KBAK television. And now his son is now one of the finest drummers in the country. And I want you to say hello to Mr. Johnny Barnett. John? The bass man that I've invited to be with us today and so generously accepted our invitation is a fellow that I have known since he was a kid. I've known he and his brothers. And he went to work with me a long, long time ago. And I believe it was one of the most enjoyable experiences that I've ever had, is having this man on the band. Because we didn't make any money, but we had a lot of laughs. And I've never had a bass man in my life that really kept me on a good kick all the time. And believe me, he carries it through life, and he's a wonderful person. And incidentally, he's a very fine bass man. Mr. Kenny Eckenberg. Kenny? All right, and getting down now to the vocal here. This is kind of unusual for me, because I've got the Kim folks here with me doing this little get-together today. You all know the McElroys. You know Wanda. You know her daughter Janice and her daughter June. Of course, they've got other names now, you know. But anyway, I have them. And then above all, today for the first time, my wife is working the show with me, Louise. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the McElroys and my wife, Louise. And the trio that's standing beside me needs no introduction, except maybe one of them. I said we've got the Ray sisters and the Raylettes, as Ray Charles used to say. No, we do have, we have the wonderful Ray sisters. They worked the TV show with me years and years ago, and they're just like family to us. And I wouldn't dare do any type of a personal appearance without trying to take the Rays with me. And then today we're certainly happy that Patty's daughter, this is Patty, and this is Shirley, and this is Patty's daughter. This is Darla with them today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ray sisters. All right. Now you've met all the folks today, and the number that I personally asked them to do is going to have something to do with the service today. This is called Light at the End of the Darkness. It's a very, very fine tune, and I don't know whether anybody else likes it, but it just happens to be one of my favorites. And the way the Rays do it, it makes it doubly nice. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ray sisters.
For all the world to see.
certainly want to give a disclaimer right now because, to begin with, as I say, my name is Jimmy Thomason, and I'm an alcoholic. And I went to AA. I'm very active in AA in the past. I'm very active in AA right now. But when I say I want to give disclaimers, I want you to know that when I say I'm an alcoholic, I feel that I'll always be an alcoholic. A lot of people say, oh no, you're recovered. Well, I haven't. I haven't had a drink in 20 years. And I don't think I'm going to be drinking tonight. I don't know, but I might be drunk tomorrow. I don't know. Something may trigger me off. I don't know. And when I say that I'm active in the AA program, and if I fall off and I get drunk tomorrow or the next day, I don't want you to come up and say, well, there Jimmy T said he's drunk again, said that AA is no good, said that's a sorry program, said he's drunk as he can be. That's not AA's purpose. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and also help others to recover from alcoholism. And the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees in AA membership, and we're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sex, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, and does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any cause. And our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now, the people in AA, when I got there, had what they call a program of recovery. A lot of people are sent to Alcoholics Anonymous by the court systems. In fact, I've worked in this court system for over 2 years now. And we've sat in a courtroom and tell a man that he has to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if he doesn't go to Alcoholics Anonymous, he has to report back to this office, and he does a little jail time. Well, when it comes down to doing a little jail time or going to AA, they'll say, well, they'll go to AA. Well, of course, they go to AA, and they walk in the door, and they've got a little card that they have to give the guy to sign, and they come in, and they stay for about 3 or 4, 5 minutes, and then they go up, and they say, look, I've got to work tonight, and said, I'm on call at home, said, would you sign my card so I can leave? Then they come in, and they've got sick folks at home, and they can't stay for the meeting. This is what we call forced sobriety, but the courts feel that if they're exposed to AA, that there might be something in there that will ring a bell. Now, the people in AA feel, and I do too, but this is a personal opinion, we feel that a person has to hit rock bottom before he'll go to AA and before he will sober up. Now, the reason he will not sober up is because he can't sober up. He's addicted to it. He doesn't realize it, but he's addicted to it. He'll think that he can handle the booze, but he can't handle the booze. But this is where the denial comes in. He will tell you that he can handle the booze, but he can't. Now, in Alcoholics Anonymous, their program of recovery, there's a chapter in here called How It Works. And bear in mind that a New York stockbroker and a doctor in Akron, Ohio founded Alcoholics Anonymous. And the stockbroker in New York had a spiritual experience, or spiritual awakening, through a group called the Oxford Movement, which was very powerful in the East at that time. And they spent a lot of time trying to sober drunk people up. And you had to sit, and this is where you almost had to take the cure. You had to, I think at one time, if you wanted to try it, they charged you $2, and you went to these AA meetings, went to these Oxford meetings. And this is where Bill W. went to the Oxford movement back east. And when he formed Alcoholics Anonymous with the doctor in Akron, Ohio, they found that the only way that they could achieve sobriety was to tell other people. And this came from their religious experience. It's the same thing as your pastor, Russell Wolf, a man of God, and knows that Jesus Christ is his Savior, and he knows that Jesus Christ is going to save him, and this is all that he does about it. He does not tell other people. And you as Christians don't tell other people that you're saved and tell them of the power and the blood of Jesus Christ. So you go home and you sit and you let somebody else do that. I don't think you'll make many points in heaven that way. You won't make many points. You have got to tell other people. You've got to tell other people of the power of Jesus Christ. And the people in AA, if they're going to stay sober, they have to tell them and tell other alcoholics that there is a way. And this way that Alcoholics Anonymous found is in chapter 5 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the second best book that has ever been published. The first is the Bible, and the next is the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is chapter 5, and it's read at every AA meeting that you attend. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault because they seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demand rigorous honesty, and their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Now, our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. And if you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. As some of these we bought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. So with all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to these old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go completely. Now remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. And without help, it's too much for us. But there is one. There is one who has all power, and that one is God. And may you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point, and we asked his protection and care with complete abandon. And here are the steps we took, which are a program of recovery. Number one, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Number two, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number three, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood it. Number four, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. And 7, we humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except to do so would injure them or others. Continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. A lot of us exclaim, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to attain anywhere like perfect adherence to these principles, because we are not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines, and the principles we've set down are guides to progress, and we claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. In our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas: that we were alcoholic and that could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. That God could and would if he was sought. Those are the 12 steps, ladies and gentlemen, steps of recovery of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as you can tell, those are hard steps to live by. And we see people that go to these meetings, and people that call me and said, look, I've been to those meetings. Nothing. I've been to those meetings. And there's just nothing there for me. I'm not alcoholic. I can handle it. The reason I did that, I was tired when I'd been drinking a little beer, I admit that, but I was tired at the time. And I hadn't had any rest. And then all of a sudden, I forgot that we had this party to go to, and all of a sudden, it was so-and-so's birthday, and I took a little wine there, and this, that, and the other, and it hit me on an empty stomach, and that's why the cops pulled me over. I can't help it because my blood alcohol level was about 10 point something, or 18 point something. That cop knew my car, that's why he pulled me over. He didn't pull me over because I wasn't driving right, he didn't run over the curb, you know, all of this thing. Disease of denial. But when you go to AA, and you go to get well, you can get well. You can get well at home. You don't have to go to AA. We go to AA. The reason I went to AA, and as I say, this is my story, my testimony. It's not anybody else's. Don't blame AA for this. I went to AA because there was absolutely no help for me anywhere else. Doctors wouldn't talk to me anymore. And I had some of the finest doctors in the country. But they didn't have time for me. They had time for my family, but they didn't have time for me. Where could I go? I figured I could handle it. I came from a family back in Texas during the Depression. Railroad family, very religious. Family back there that I refer to as Deepwater Baptist. And I was in Sunday school from the time I can remember. I can't even remember a time that I wasn't in Sunday school. And I can't remember a time that I didn't catch it for not attending church service in the morning. I could skip out Sunday night, but I couldn't skip out on Sunday school on Sunday morning. And raised in an environment like that, my daddy was a railroad man, went without work, couldn't even hold the extra board during that Depression. We lived out of a garden back there. And I'm trying to go to school. It was a mighty, mighty hard thing to do, but I was anxious to get out from under those controls. And I got kicked out of school back there because I got my knee hurt. And that's when I got into the music business. Started playing around the house there, and the next thing you know, we played for some of these goat ropings and some of these fade-to-dos and western jamborees and beer busts and all that thing. We saw 3-2 beer, you know, when it came back in, 1933. We watched all of that. And I was anxious to get out of this. And I was invited to shortening the story a little bit, I was invited to a recording session in Dallas, Texas. Fellow that I came to work for just about the biggest part of my life, I guess. He later on became governor of the state of Louisiana, and I went back and went to work for him when I was 15 years old, or 16. And he asked me to go home with him, and I did. And he's talking about going to work, and I did. And shortly after that, we married, and I met some of the finest musicians in the country back there. And before then, I had learned to play an instrument at the brass rail in Houston, Texas. Now, you talk about Skid Row, good people. That is Skid Row. There's a brass rail in Houston, Texas. And I worked with a piano man back there by the name of Moon Mulligan. I mention him now because he passed away. And I saw Moon as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was just a little bit before my time, before I got through. Moon died sober. But he taught me how to drink. Believe me, he did. And several others there did too. But let me go and say this, and make note of this, that all these musicians that you hear about, and all those back there and around, they're all not drunkards and not alcoholics. Some of them are. They're just like you. It's like everybody. They drank a little bit, and then pretty soon they quit, you know. The ones that lead the list right now, I think, are the latest legal attorneys. They lead the list in alcohol. But in my story, when I met these people and we were recording, and those people meant so much to me. We worked years and years and years together. Then later on, when I came to Bakersfield, things were going real good for me here, because I happened to marry into a pretty good family. And these people, the Kilgore family, treated me as nice or nicer than they did their own kids. Still do. And I love them and admire them for it. They put up with me because I didn't think that I was alcoholic. You know, my story could go on and on, but I'm going to get off here in just a little bit. Because the reason it could go on is because that's just how long I stayed drunk. You don't get up and give a drunk-a-log or a testimony in 5 minutes when you've been drunk for 35 years. But let's just put it like this. When it got down, the grandkids came along, and I had 2 of the finest daughters that you've ever seen in your life that married my boys. And all of a sudden, they don't want Virginia around with these kids. And I believe if I had to put my hand on anything that will attribute to my sobriety, I think I would have to put it on that. That'd like to kill my soul. Not one of them, but both of them. It's a great-grandbaby sitting in this audience right today that I couldn't love and couldn't be with if I was drinking. But now he's a welcome part of my home, and this is what I live for. I live for the friendship these people are going to stand up here right now. So when I got ready to get off of this stuff, I found out that I couldn't, and I didn't think that I was that bad, and I didn't feel that. I said, oh man, this is all right. I'll get some rest or this and that. That's when I found out, hey man, look. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back is I go down to Houston, Texas, down to Beaumont to bury my old friend. And I was met by this little man that taught me the business. Well, after the funeral, we go to the hotel down there, and we're going to, do you remember this? Do you remember that? 1/5 after another, trying to bring the man back. We couldn't do it. Well, instead of catching the plane back, I waited till the next day, and we wasn't ready then. We're still trying to bring him back, order another 5th, and we waited the next day. I finally got to Houston, and after about 3 shirts to put on, one thing that a drunk learns to do is to dress. He's always going to dress, So after I go down and buy a couple of shirts where I can get on an airplane back to California, I couldn't even fly from Beaumont to Houston. My friend had to call a cab, take me from Beaumont to Houston, put me on that airplane to get me back to California. Well, I got home, I wasn't able to go home, so what did I do? I go to one of the finer establishments in this town, real fine hotel, called the Tower. That's where I was, the Tower Motel. So I stayed there. Couldn't go home. Now, you bear in mind now that I had no whiskey to drink. I'm still burying my piano-playing friend back there in Beaumont. I had a case of bourbon, and I had a case of that Peter Smirnoff fluid, that vodka. I had a case of that. Well, pretty soon I found out, and this is where it's going to happen to you people. If any of you have folks that are drinking. You can drink so long, and something is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. You're either going to do some time, you're going to get in a wreck, you're going to kill yourself, or if you just keep drinking, you're going to hurt your health. All right, I got to the point where I couldn't get drunk and I couldn't get sober, and I was a fifth-a-day man, believe me. But I couldn't get drunk, I couldn't get sober. I'm there, just like that. So then I decided this is where your true alcoholic mind comes into the deal. Right then I began to figure out what God had intended for people to do. I decided that God didn't need me on this earth. Okay? I'm no good to anybody. Family don't want me around there. They don't appreciate this wonderful talent that I've got. Oh, they were glad to get rid of that talent real quick, like, you know. So they didn't want that. So what I'm going to do, I talked to the old gal over there at the tower, and I said, give me one of these apartments that's got a little stove in it, and what I'll do, I'm going to do a little light housekeeping. I'm going to do some of my own cooking. And what I had in mind, sticking my head in that oven is what I had in mind. And this is exactly what I intended to do. And at 10 minutes after 12, on January the 3rd, well, it's funny, I can tell you the day, the hour, the minute, and the second. I decided at that time that it wasn't it. I said, I'm on the side of the bed. Can't get drunk, I can't get sober, and this, that, and the other. Now, I'm not saying that a big bolt out of the blue came in and all of this, and that I had a spiritual awakening or whatever it happened. But I do know that God was working on me at that particular time. That I know. The bottle was still on the dresser, the bourbon. And here is where I didn't realize what a blessing that God was going to give me at that particular time. I have friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, people that, in the TV stations that I work with, that I admired and I work with all of the time. And I love these people. But not once did they ever tell me that I had a problem that I ought to do something about it. But oh, I love those people. All right, I called over to AA, and I just knew they'd come running over there to get me at 10 minutes after 12 tonight. I had to call somebody home. So I called these people. They didn't come get me. Didn't come get me at all. I stayed there. Texas Barrel House opened the next morning. They was cleaning up over there. And I could hear that jukebox playing, and I knew all I had to do was walk over there, and I'd be right back where I was. They finally came after me at 10 minutes after 10 o'clock the next morning, and they were to talk to me. No big deal. They just come in. I thought they were really going to make a big deal out of my calling these people. They walked in and shook hands with me and said, well, Jimmy, how you doing? You had enough? I said, I've had enough. Now, when I went to AA, that like to have killed my soul. If anybody had ever told me that I would go to Alcoholics Anonymous, that was so degrading to me to have to tell people. So what I figured I'd do was go to AA and go to these meetings and sober up and straighten up and tend to my business, and then, then a little bit later on, what I would do, if I ever got in trouble again and felt like I had to drink, then I'd go back to AA and I'd be happy to tell all my friends what a good organization it was. But that's not the way it works. You come in, you admitted your life is powerless over alcohol. You had to want to get well. And I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood it. Praying only His knowledge, His will for me. That is the key to the church and the key to sobriety, ladies and gentlemen. But you're not going to tell a drunk that. They're not coming to you. They would come to you. But you see, they'll be in here, they'll be sober for 3 months, and the next thing you know, they're drunk again. And you think they're all from the deep end. The poor things can't help it. They're addicted to it. And sometime they're going to have to come down, and the people they hate are going to have to sit down and they can sit and talk with these people. And they're going to have to make a decision. And I think that they will. And any of you that have friends, I would suggest Alcoholics Anonymous, because when I got in there, and when I say that God had a blessing for me, as never have I met a finer group of people than is in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have never met a group of finer people and people that go out of their way to help people. Because you see, we have to surrender to win. We have to hit bottom in despair, and we have to surrender to accomplish any sobriety. And we have to give away to keep. We've got to give away what God gave us, or we won't be able to keep it. And we've got to suffer to get well. Because escaping the remorse and the shame and the embarrassment of drunkenness, we suffer. And we've got to do that before we can get well. And we've got to die to live. We've got to die to live. Because once we embrace these 12 steps, then that old fuzzy thinking that we've been doing, and all of this drunken thinking that we've been doing, we're through with that now. We've taken on a new life. We've taken on a new life. And it's a life of sobriety. Of all the things that I can say in AA, of all the things that have been written, and all the words, and all the speeches, and everything else that they've said, 3 things we'll cover. 3 things we'll cover. You believe in God, you clean house, and you tell others. Just that simple. How I love the people in AA. And I appreciate the fact that you folks invited me here to talk with you today. I know you're not alcoholic, but you might have people that are alcoholic. And you just remember this, that there's 100 million drinkers in the United States today, and 10 million of those drinkers are chronic alcoholics. And 1 out of every 10 becomes an alcoholic, and there's over 23,000 people killed in automobile wrecks in California this past year. This is what alcoholism is doing. There is a way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here. Thank you very, very much. soul was lost, so lonely and so cold, just like the lamb that is strayed from the fold, across the of sin I roam. Oh, gentle shepherd, hear my cry and lead me home. The hours go by on the bright wings. Wolves of hell are waiting for the night to steal the soul that's strayed from the fold. Oh, gentle shepherd, hear my cry and save my soul. Oh, gentle shepherd, hear my lonely cry. And in thy cool green pastures let me lie. Beside the clear, still waters, lead thou me. Oh, gentle shepherd, stay forevermore. Okay, Rob. You'll meet many like me on life's busy street, with shoulders stooped and heads bowed down and eyes that stare in defeat. Our souls that live within the past where sorrow plays all parts, and where a living death is all that's left for men with broken hearts. Now you have no right to be the judge to criticize and condemn. Just think that for the grace of God it would be you instead of him. One careless step of thoughtless deed and then the misery starts. And to those who weep, death comes cheap. Those men with broken hearts. Oh, so humble you should be when they come passing by. For it's written that the greatest men never get too big to cry. Some lose faith in love and life when sorrow shoots her darts. And with hope all gone, they walk alone. These men with broken hearts. You've never walked in that man's shoes or saw things through his eyes, or stood and watched in helpless hands while the heart within him dies. Some were paupers, some were kings, and some were masters of the art. But in their shame, they're all the same. These men with broken hearts. Life can sometimes be so cruel that a heart will pray for death. And God, why must these living dead know pain with every breath? So help your brother. Help your brother along the road, no matter where you start. For the God who made you made them too. These men with broken Let me do some good today. Help someone along the way. Let me help and say to my brother, let me right one human wrong. Help to make somebody strong. Let me cheer the silent song. My brother, traveling through this awful land, let me lend a helping hand, just to show I understand and share the heartache that he's feeling. Let me help in his distress, help to make his burden less. Let me bring some happiness to my brother, traveling through this troubled land. Let me lend a helping hand, just to show I understand and share the heartache that he's feeling. Let me help in his distress, help to make his burden less. Then I know I've done my best for my brother. Thank you.
Has it been since you talked with the Lord and told him your heart's deepest secret? How long since you prayed? How long since you stayed on your knees till the light shone through? How long has it been since your mind felt at ease? How long since your heart knew no burden? And you called him your friend. How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you?
I wasted many precious years. Now I'm coming home. I now repent with bitter tears. Lord, I'm coming Like a tired and weary soldier seeks a foxhole to take his rest, I'm
artists that were very well known that were commissioned and offered $1,000 prize to draw the best portrayal of peace. And one of them did probably the thing that you and I would do if we had such a commission, such a challenge. He drew a very idyllic summer scene, a beautiful lake, and he drew fishermen out there just at sunset. And everything was just idyllic. The other one perhaps might have had a little different slant, maybe a real slant. He drew a violent waterfall, water cascading everywhere. And out over that limb, or out over that waterfall was a tree, and all the oversplash was just going everywhere. The violence of the water was so great. And there was a little fork in that limb that hanging out over the rock there on the waterfall. And in that fork of the tree was a nest, and in the nest was a little bird just singing at the top of his voice. And he entitled it Peace in the Midst of the Storm. And I think that's what Jimmy's talking about today. That life is always going to deal, in some way or another, going to deal with some hard spots. And it's always good to know that while we may not be sheltered from them coming along once in a while, we can have peace in the midst of it. And that's what God's offering. I think that's what David meant when he said, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Stop and think about what that rod and staff look like. It's not too comforting unless you realize the purpose of the Good Shepherd. He used the rod to prod the sheep along so they wouldn't congregate and suffocate, and he also used the staff to pull them out in case they happened to trip or in case they happened to fall down the side of a hill. And that's just the way our Lord is. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Let God be a comfort to you in the midst of life. And we do want to thank you on behalf of Jimmy and this entire group for coming, and may God grant you peace. Let's have the lights, and we thank you, and you're dismissed.